Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Cecilia Masters, founder of Sun State Consult. Today, we will talk about grant readiness. Many strong organizations struggle with grant readiness, not because they aren't doing good work, but because the system wasn't built with them in mind. That's what we're here to unpack together. Let me ask you to think about this for a moment. How many times have you been told you were almost ready for funding, but no one explained what that meant? What we see across the country, especially with community based organizations, is that grant decisions are often made before the proposal is even fully read. This discussion is about understanding what funders are assessing behind the scenes so you're not guessing anymore. Before we go any further, I want us to take a moment to ground ourselves. Think about what best describes your organization right now. Are you just getting started? Are you established but underfunded? Are you growing and beginning to seek larger or more complex grants? Or are you unsure whether you're truly ready to apply? This isn't about labels or judgment. It's about giving yourself an honest snapshot of where you are today, not where someone else thinks you should be. That clarity will make the rest of this conversation much more useful. What is grant readiness, really? When people hear grant readiness, they often think it means being polished or perfect. I want to challenge that. In our work nationally, we see organizations with big budgets get funded despite weak programs, and small organizations denied despite strong impact. The difference usually comes down to trust. Funders are asking, can this organization responsibly manage our investment? Why grant readiness matters more than ever. This shift isn't happening in a vacuum. Across the country, funders are operating in a more constrained and scrutinized environment. Fewer dollars, increased competition, and heightened pressure to demonstrate measurable results. That pressure rolls downhill to nonprofits and community based organizations. It shows up as more rigorous reporting requirements, increased documentation, and higher expectations around systems and accountability. In this environment, grant readiness is no longer optional. It has become a core survival skill, one that determines not just whether an organization can secure funding, but whether it can sustain it responsibly over time. What funders are assessing, even if they don't say it, funders assess five core areas. Those are one, governance and leadership, two, financial management, three, programs and impact, four, operations and infrastructure, and five, compliance and documentation. Even when applications don't ask these questions directly, funders are still evaluating them. I often tell clients funders are reading between the lines. One weak area, like finances or governance, can outweigh a strong narrative. This slide is the framework funders are using, whether they admit it or not. Pillar 1, governance and leadership. This is one of the hardest areas for many organizations. What we often see is founders doing everything, which makes sense when resources are limited. But from a funder's perspective, a lack of governance feels like risk. They're not judging your leadership, they're assessing sustainability. Some of the things funders look for are an active and engaged board, clear leadership roles, and strategic direction. Consider this. Does this pillar feel strong for your organization, or is it still developing? Pillar 2, financial management. Let me be clear, funders do not expect nonprofits to be wealthy. They expect them to be responsible. Nationally, we see funding pooled not because money was misused, but because systems weren't in place. Financial clarity is about protecting your mission, not just satisfying funders. When funders review your finances, they are asking whether your organization can steward resources responsibly. A current and realistic budget tells funders that you understand your financial reality, not just projections. Basic internal controls show that there are safeguards in place to prevent errors and misuse. And understanding your true program costs allows you to request funding that actually sustains your work instead of underfunding it. Across communities nationwide, we see strong programs fail to secure or keep funding because the financial story doesn't align with the work. Financial readiness isn't about sophistication, it's about clarity, consistency, and accountability. Pillar 3, programs and impact. This is where many organizations struggle, not because they lack impact, but because they haven't been asked to articulate it clearly. Funders don't fund effort, they fund outcomes. Your job is to translate the real change you're creating into language and data funders understand. So, in your grant applications, funders want to see clear program descriptions, defined populations served, and evidence of outcomes. Pillar 4, operations and infrastructure. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Not all money is good money. We've seen organizations secure large grants and then burn out staff, miss reporting deadlines, or lose credibility because the infrastructure didn't keep up. Readiness protects you from growing too fast. Some things funders will look at in applications are your staffing capacity and your processes and systems that will help manage growth. Pillar 5, compliance and documentation. If you've ever been scrambling for documents at 11:59 p.m., you're not alone. But funders see that scramble as a signal. Readiness means having your house in order before the opportunity opens. So you can focus on strategy, not panic. Start by gathering or developing documents that may be required for your next grant application. These can include your 501c3 documentation, fiscal sponsor agreement, federally approved indirect cost agreement letter, organizational policies, past reports, and organizational budgets. Common grant readiness myths. These myths show up everywhere, especially in communities that have been historically underfunded or excluded from philanthropy. One of the most damaging beliefs is that rejection equals failure. In reality, most declines are not about the quality of your work, they're about readiness, alignment, or capacity at the moment in time. When organizations internalize these myths, they chase funding instead of building systems. Readiness work helps you break that cycle and move from reactive to strategic. Here are some myths. Myth 1, funders don't care about small or grassroots organizations. But the reality is, funders care about risk and capacity, not size. Many funders actively seek grassroots organizations, but only when systems and accountability are in place. Myth 2, if our mission is strong, the money will follow. The reality is, a strong mission is necessary, but funders fund execution, outcomes, and stewardship, not passion alone. Myth 3, we'll figure out reporting once we get there. Reality, funders expect reporting systems to exist before funds are awarded. Reporting capacity is a readiness signal. Myth 4, grants are the fastest way to stabilize our organization. The reality is, grants are often slow, restricted, and reimbursement based. Without readiness, they can destabilize cash flow rather than fix it. Myth 5: if we just had more staff, we'd be ready. The reality is, staffing without systems increases risk. Funders prefer clear processes over headcount. Myth 6: declines mean our work isn't good enough. The reality is, most declines are about readiness alignment or timing, not program quality. Which of these myths have you heard or believed at some point? When I started as a program manager over 20 years ago, I believed that grants would fix our cash flow issues. In reality, many grants were cost reimbursement grants where we had to spend and submit monthly reports to trigger payment. This process could take over 60 days before we received the money. Quick readiness self check. I want you to think about these questions as honestly as possible. Can we produce key documents within 48 hours? Do we know our true program costs? Can someone besides the executive director manage a grant? Do we have at least one person who can track deadlines, reports, and compliance consistency? If any of these gave you pause, that doesn't mean you're failing. It simply shows you where your next capacity building opportunity is. Grant readiness isn't about checking every box today. It's about knowing which boxes to focus on next. If one or two of these stood out to you, that's completely normal and very common among strong organizations. This is exactly where readiness work becomes strategic instead of overwhelming. One of the biggest mistakes we see is trying to fix everything at once. The most successful organizations start small, prioritize strategically, and build capacity in layers. Sustainability beats speed every time. When we talk about building readiness, it's important to start with what is both manageable and high impact. For many organizations, that begins with financial clarity, understanding the true cost of delivering a program, not just what you hope a grant will cover. For nonprofits, another critical early step is strengthening board engagement so leadership and oversight are shared, not carried by one person alone. At the same time, your program should be clearly documented. Every core program should have a simple one pager that outlines its goals, objectives, key activities from the past year, and impact it has produced. It I will also encourage clients to focus on funder alignment early. When the first 30 days of working together, we typically develop a short list of aligned funders or a grant calendar. This helps organizations move from reactive grant chasing to a more strategic, organized approach to funding. When to apply and when to pause. I want to spend a little more time on this slide because it's one of the most important and often overlooked parts of grant readiness. This slide is about permission to say no, permission to pause, and permission to be strategic instead of reactive. Many organizations feel constant pressure to apply for every funding opportunity that comes across their desk, especially when resources are tight. But applying for a grant that doesn't align with your capacity, your mission, or your systems can actually put your organization at risk. Readiness isn't just about applying for funding, it's about protecting your mission, your staff, and the communities you serve. If a grant requires more reporting, staffing, or infrastructure than you can reasonably manage, the costs may outweigh the benefit. Choosing not to apply doesn't mean you're failing or missing an opportunity. It means you're making an informed decision. Strong, sustainable organizations know when to move forward and when to pause and build capacity first. That discernment is a core part of grant readiness. Has your organization ever taken on funding that ended up creating more strain than support? Many organizations would probably answer that yes. At Sunstate Consult, our work is grounded in reality. We understand the constraints community based organizations operate under: limited staff, limited time, and often limited access to technical support. We meet organizations exactly where they are and help them build practical, right sized systems that funders trust. That means strengthening what already exists, not forcing organizations to become something they're not. Our focus is on helping you increase funding readiness while protecting your mission, your people, and the communities you serve. We believe grant readiness should support sustainability, not create burnout or push organizations away from their core purpose. Ultimately, our role is to help organizations move from reactive grant chasing to a more strategic, confident, and sustainable approach to funding. I want to bring us back to one core message. If you take nothing else from tonight, remember this: grant readiness is built, not inherited. Strong organizations are not born ready. They don't start with perfect systems, unlimited staff, or deep pockets. What they have is intentionality. They make deliberate decisions over time to strengthen their structure, clarify their impact, and build trust with funders. Readiness is not about where you started. It's about the choices you make next. Every organization in in the United States is capable of becoming more grant ready by focusing on progress instead of perfection. The fact that you're here asking these questions and investing time in understanding what funders expect is already a readiness step. I'd love to hear what's resonating, what questions you have, or what challenges you're navigating right now. I would like to close with one reflection. Based on everything we discussed today, what is one readiness area you feel most motivated to strengthen over the next 60 to 90 days? You're welcome to share in the chat or send me a direct message at our Instagram account or email. Even naming one area internally is progress. Thank you.